Hello out there. We're on the air. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy Tuesday, whether you want it to be or not. That's where we're going with today. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, Zap.stream. Zap.stream is officially live. Hopefully, it holds up a little bit better than it did yesterday. But for the golf show afterwards, it worked perfectly fine. So I don't know what the hell happened there. But at the same time, that's not our problem today. Welcome back to another edition of the Daily Bitcoin Journey, everybody. I see some people in the house this morning. The Daily Bitcoin Journey, of course, is actionable and logical discussion for Bitcoiners and for future Bitcoiners. Johnny, good morning, my friend. Adam, good morning. AD and Costello, good to see you guys and gals. Letha's over in Zap.stream. Good morning, Letha. Okay, well, it is Tuesday. It is a great day. I have quite the daily metric or daily block reward for you guys today. You're going to enjoy it. I should actually try to find it quickly while I'm talking about it. The title of today's show is Bitcoin is Our Only Hope. I had a couple different ideas for names today. It was going to be Bitcoin is Your Only Hope. But then I figured everybody's in this whole thing together. So Bitcoin is our only hope. Our or our? I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to find this quote or this comment quickly. Holy, one of the clips I made the other day about a hardware device has like 6,000 views already. There's like 90 comments as well. Where is this thing? Oh, there it is. Okay. So that one went fairly viral for me anyways. Mini viral, I guess you'd say. But I got a comment from that one. I see Bodie is over. Oh, Daniel's up to 420 sats. Good morning, visionaries. The hardcore folks, the real Bitcoiners are over in Zap.stream. We got 8 people watching over there, just as much as YouTube right now. Love to see that. So let's start with the metrics, though. Let's start with that. The show today, though, is called Bitcoin is Our Only Hope. And this one's going to be fairly directed towards students, the younger folks. I mean, there's going to be something for everybody, as I try to do with most of my shows here, especially at the end of it. But we got some stuff to talk through, some news, a nice little graphic I found in regards to Bitcoin month to month. And then we're going to talk about a few other things. So with that, we got Bodie's over in Zap.stream, Daniel's there, Craig, Letha, and a few other people who are not in the chat. Okay, so we'll start with the metrics today. It's usually what we do, right? It is Tuesday, but I'm a little bit less rusty than we were yesterday. Okay, let's go like that. Let's get to the metrics. We are currently sitting at block height 842, 448 blocks. That's how many blocks have been mined since January the 3rd, 2009, when Bitcoin first was introduced to the world. Right after the great financial crisis, the crash of 2008. That's when Bitcoin came out to save us. Some might say, including me. If you're transacting on the Bitcoin Layer 1 network this morning, you're paying 21 sats per VByte. Pretty average. I'd say anytime you're between 20 to 50, that's a pretty good price. Anytime you can get lower than that, that's when you got to start doing some actual thinking in Bitcoin in terms of your UTXOs. The price today hardly moved, $63,663 US dollars. I was doing these metrics this morning, and I entered in the 2021 first, and it was the exact same as yesterday. And I was like, oh, that's kind of strange. And then I put in the 2023 one, and it was the exact same. And I was thinking, oh, that's also pretty strange. And then I realized I was just using yesterday's date to get these numbers. So that's why they were the exact same. But 4 years ago, you could have purchased one Bitcoin for $9,952 US dollars. The Moscow time today, $1 US will get you 1,572 sats. The price in Canada today, see, it's pretty dreary in Canada here the last couple of days. Rainy. We need some rain, but at the same time, still pain in the ass. Ready for golf season here. Price today in Canada, $86,978 for one Bitcoin. And the Moose Jaw time, which is the Canadian equivalent of Moscow time, one loonie will get you 1,147 Satoshis. There you go. And you know what I'm going to say next? Probably, if you're here every day, the deal of a lifetime. Deal of a lifetime. Okay, so let's start. You guys are going to get a kick out of this one. And keep in mind here that this is just me reading this. This is a comment from somebody else. It's not my words, but let's do this. So every day, I missed yesterday, but every day we do the daily block reward, which is a good comment from YouTube or a constructive comment from YouTube, or we put a priority on Fountain, the boosts. So if you're not on Fountain yet, make sure you do that today. Get to the App Store, download the Fountain app, and you can start listening to podcasts and earning Bitcoin for it. So if you believe in Bitcoin, if you're here for the long run, you're kind of silly not to be taking advantage of that. So on Fountain, you can find the daily Bitcoin journey. It's on there every day. And you can send a boost in there. So you can send 100 sats, 1,000 sats, 10,000 sats, and you can attach a message, whatever you want to say. Whatever you want to say. Could be about your business, could be about a meetup. It could be something that you're selling, something that you have for sale, anything. It's the best and cheapest way to advertise whatever you need in front of Bitcoiners. And I'm kind of surprised that more people aren't taking advantage of that, to be honest with you. But at the same time, everything's new here. We're going through this whole thing together, and I'm sure it'll come with time. But consider that a boost on Fountain. That'll get you the daily block reward for sure. But this one is from the YouTube. This one's from Mark Z. So we're talking about backups for your Bitcoin device, your wallet. 12 words, 24 words, whatever your backup phrase is. And Mark Z says, I had mine tattooed on my BO**R. Bone with an R at the end. That way, if you want to see it, first you have to ... and then you have to ... and then you have to remember it. So there's a nice little visual for you for Tuesday morning. Mark had his backup phrase tattooed on his private parts. And if you want to access it, you have to ... There you go. There you go, folks. Okay, what else we got going on here? Zap.stream. People are showing up in there, which is good. Zap.stream, if you haven't been there yet, also check that one out. Because you can you can zap the show, you can zap other comments in there, and you can post pictures, you can post links. It's just so much better than YouTube. And well, that's one thing we're going to talk about today in terms of Bitcoin. It's just so much better than everything else. And it blows my mind that people are taking this long to figure that out. But at the same time, that's what happens with every new technology, right? So let's, good morning, Pomp. Good to see you, buddy. Or good evening there, I guess, wherever you are. In a time zone far, far away. Okay, so let's check out some news here. Now that everybody has fully contextualized that comment from Mark on YouTube. So I want to share a couple pieces of news here, and then we're going to show. I don't think I'm going to play the video. I see some Ohio talk in the Zap.stream, and that's kind of who this show is dedicated to today. So let's go here. Let's check this out. There's either a coyote or a big fox in the yard yesterday. And so Arnie's been all over the place sniffing it out. Hopefully they don't have a run in. I don't think Arnie would fare too well. JB Bop says, congrats on the baby. Thank you. Not entirely sure what baby you're referring to, but thank you. Oh, it's always nice when somebody congrats you for something. I don't have a baby, but I got a baby pup, we'll call him. So check this one out. This is some Bitcoin news for this morning. The segment Bitcoin News, sponsored by Bitcoin News. They got so many good things going on over there. It is my number one source of information in the Bitcoin world. It seems to be fairly unbiased. They share the good stuff. They share the not so good stuff and remain fairly, as I said, unbiased as a Bitcoin news company could be anyways. So check out their Twitter. It's where I get all my news from. They got a live show every week at least, sometimes twice a week, and just some great info on there. So, and they got a great YouTube channel. Seems like they're getting some really good guests on there as well. So if you're into that kind of thing, check out Bitcoin News on Twitter, YouTube, and of course their website. So this is a piece of news out of Bitcoin News this morning. The 13F filing for Hightower Advisors, a 130 billion wealth manager, reveals that they hold 68 million in shares of Bitcoin ETFs distributed across 6 issuers. So one thing, I saw a couple of these actually, and I don't know if I wrote the other one down here or not, but there was 2 of these companies that filed their 13Fs. I'm not entirely sure what that is. I'm guessing that's a US regulatory filing. But we're starting to see that as they file these and as these public companies start sharing some of their holdings with the new quarter for the 2024, we're seeing that they're all holding Bitcoin, Bitcoin ETFs. So there's been a couple trends that have been happening in Bitcoin lately, especially this week. It seems like there's a ton of Bitcoin flowing into these ETFs now again. And I don't know if it has something to do with the start of the month or what that is, but it looks like the ETFs are really ramping up in terms of their buying. So we got Hightower Advisors here. They're holding 68 million in shares of Bitcoin. And that's pretty much, after the first quarter. So as we move on here in 2024, 2025, as the price of Bitcoin, as we expect it to go up, do you think that number is going to go lower or higher? And how many Hightower Advisors are out there? I've never even heard of this company before, but they got 130 billion in wealth management, and they allocated 68 million to that. So I think that's going to be a theme that we continue to see here is these wealth funds. They're going to start allocating 1% or 0.5%, 1%, 2%. And every company like this on earth is going to be doing this. And we haven't seen anything yet. So this is Hightower. I want to share that with you. There was another one too. I don't know if I have it as part of my news here or not. I usually just copy a whole bunch of links, paste it to the email here, and then see what opens up. So this is as I was just talking about here, this is the ETFs. So it says a new trend is emerging as all US Bitcoin ETFs see positive or neutral flows, with 217 million coming into the funds yesterday. So here you go. Here's the total, 217 million. It looks like GBTC is, I don't know what that says X though. I don't know what that is. Oh, excluding Grayscale. I got you. Okay. That makes sense. Because it does look like Grayscale here had 4 million in inflows yesterday, which I'm not really understanding that, to be honest with you. Because for the last couple months, we've seen nothing but outflows from Grayscale. And it seems like the last couple of days here, we've seen some inflows into Grayscale. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. But the big one yesterday was Fidelity. They had 100 million in new Bitcoin purchases. ARK with 76 mil, and then BlackRock with 22 mil. So that's good to see. The smaller the BlackRock, the better, in my opinion. But funds are flowing into the Bitcoin ETFs right now. There you go. There we go. What's going on over on the Zap stream here? Bodie says, congrats on creating a nice little community that isn't off-putting or too techy. It's a really good way to describe it, actually. We have about 45 people over in Living in the Future. And it seems like every day people are sharing resources. People are trying things that they had never done before, including things like Zap.stream, including Albi, NOSTR. I think that most people on there weren't on NOSTR before, but are now. So it is great to see. And I see a new NPub in there. I'm not sure who that is. Says good morning. Okay, what else we got here? I hope this isn't the video yet. No. I'll save that one. Oh, lots going on. So this is the one I wanted to share. This is the big one for today. Well, for the first part here. Let's take a look at this. This is interesting. This is very interesting. So let's bring this up. This is also from Bitcoin News. It says Bitcoin closed the month of April with a negative return of negative 14%. So I will say this. I did a video in April, start of April. It was called Bitcoin is the best budgeting tool. And I've recently clipped it and shared it. And it's actually done very well. And we've had a lot of good comments on it. It makes a lot of sense to people. And kind of the idea there is that at the start of every month, you budget for the month. Say you have $2,000 worth of expenses for the month. You take 75% of it, put it into Bitcoin. You take 25% of it, you leave it in cash. And that's how you pay for your expenses for the month using like an app like Fold in the US or ShakePay in Canada. And kind of the idea there is that you actually store not only your savings, but also your free cash flow, your spending money every month that you're going to be spending otherwise. So you're not selling Bitcoin. You're just using Bitcoin to hold your short-term funds. And so I will say that at the start of the month, I was pretty confident after 3 months of straight gains that was going to be the case again. But in April, it fell 14%. So if you did that strategy, I'm not entirely sure how it would have worked out for you, but it's still day-to-day, depends on when you need to be spending your money. But overall, that was not a good month to be explaining that. So I admit when I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, but there are going to be months, and this is something you have to consider if you're somebody who's wanting to do this strategy, is there are going to be months where you probably lose a little bit. But then you see February. So April was down 14%, March was up 16%, and February was up 43%. So I guess I should have this fucking graph up here. That would make more sense. So here it is. Now you can see what I'm talking about. So this is a really interesting graphic to me. And I'm a bit of a nerd, as you guys and girls probably know. But I like looking at this stuff. Even though you can't put too much into stuff like this, it's still good to look at, I think, because it gives you a good understanding, the fact that there are going to be good months, there's going to be down months, but overall this looked pretty green to me. So this is the month-to-month gains or losses, and a couple things that I took from this. I had a couple notes here. So there was, okay, if you look at for the whole year, so let's take 2021 as an example. So 2021, we had 6 months in the green and 6 months in the red. And so I did a bit of a comparison here. And so it looks like there was only 1 year where there was 3 months of positive. There was 2 years with 4 months in the positive, 0 years with 5 months in the positive, 2 years was 6 months positive, 1 year was 7 months positive, and these are the two big ones here. So we had 3 years where 8 months out of 12 were positive, and we had 2 years where 9 out of 12 months were positive. That's interesting to me. So even though it changes pretty much every year, and it's kind of an average of, let's say, 6 to 7, there's more in the 8 and the 9 months of positive than the 3 and 4. So I'm sure that sounded a little bit crazy when you're just listening to it, but if you take this graphic and you actually look at it, you can see that for the most part, for the last 15 years since Bitcoin has been in existence, month to month has been fairly green, and the green ones are really pretty big too. And the second part here that I wanted to show you is that look at September. September looks really red, and even the months where it was positive was like 2%, 3% up, and 6% up. But then the next month, October, look at that. Mostly all green, and we got some huge returns there. 60%, 33%, 47%, 27%, 40%, 28%. So, I mean, if you see nothing else other than these two right here, just in terms of if you're thinking about spending Bitcoin, if you have some that you're going to be selling to maybe pay down some debt, I don't recommend that. But at the same time, I know everybody's situation is different. So definitely something to consider there is that summer usually cools off. There's a bit of a mixture there, but then September historically has gone down for the month. And then right after that, October just rips. And if you have been watching the show, that's kind of one thing I've been saying is my prediction is that we're going to go through the next 6 months here. It's going to be summer slowdown. Nobody really cares about anything to do with their investments or financial stuff. And then I thought that in the fall sometime, we'd see a huge increase. Mostly because these ETFs are going to keep buying Bitcoin. There's going to be new corporations that adopt a Bitcoin strategy. We might see some more countries adopt Bitcoin. And I think that once we get to 100,000 Bitcoin, that's when people are really going to take note. That's when people are going to start caring again about Bitcoin, the retail side of things. So I did expect that to happen in the fall. And based on this, I think that that prediction might hold true. So there you go. Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, Daddy-O. You like Digibyte? I do have some Digibyte. I bought Digibyte back in 2020 for very cheap. And it went up quite a bit and then it came down quite a bit. So I don't even know what it's at lately, but I have some of it. I do think that there's some other altcoins like Digibyte that will be around in 10 years from now. Most of them won't. But there's some interesting things about Digibyte that intrigue me. It's kind of more like a hedge for me. Let's say that. Because I think that Microsoft has some influence in Digibyte or they're implementing it into some of their software and technology stuff. So as much as I hate Microsoft, you still have to have some hedge out there. Carl, good morning, my friend. Good morning. My Path to Fire zapped 69 sats over on zap.stream. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Daniel says, I think there are tax implications for Grayscale. The money that could leave is gone. The money that really can't leave is still there. And maybe that group is buying more. Yeah, that could be it. That could be it. Because every time there is a transfer from Grayscale to even a different ETF, that is a taxable event every time you move Bitcoin. And Craig says, decent page to the ETF flow summary here. So let's check this out quickly. He shared this link in zap.stream. And since this is a live show, we're able to do stuff like this. So this is the bold report. This is what Craig just shared over on zap.stream. And you can see the different inflows here. These look like they're all ETFs. We got gold. We got Bitcoin here. We got the ETF. Oh, this is the fund inflows. I got you. Okay. Yeah, because it looked like that had been dropping for a while, but I think that we're kind of on the way back up. I thought, anyways. But this looks like an interesting little resource here. So this is bold.report/dashboard. Hard to really analyze things when you're live on the internet, but that's a good resource from Craig. Another good resource if you're into following the ETFs, Thomas from Hey Apollo. Check him out on Twitter. He is really good every day. He has a report on the inflows and outflows of the Bitcoin ETFs. If you're interested in following that, I kind of am. I have some ETFs, and I just think that it's very interesting part of Bitcoin right now that wasn't here last year. So something to pay attention to for sure. Carl says Digibyte can run on the Lightning Network. Yes. And that is because of what? Segregated witness, I think it's called. Digibyte, Litecoin, obviously Bitcoin. They all have the ability to run on the Lightning Network. Okay, what else we got here? What's this last one? Oh, this was the other one. So I said that what was the first one there? Hightower Advisors, they're buying Bitcoin, 68 million. And then this one is South State. They manage 34 billion. And they have ETF exposure to IBIT and Grayscale per their 13F filings. So it doesn't say how much they have, but interesting nonetheless. They have 300 plus branches across Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Virginia, and the Carolinas. So South State Bank also is getting into Bitcoin. I mean, it's to me, it's like, okay, well, we see these things, we hear these things, but just stop and think about that. Stop and think about that and think about the implications there. Like Bitcoin was designed to separate money from state, right? And that's the whole idea there. So we knew that banks were kind of going to be turned off by Bitcoin, but seeing fund managers like that, seeing banks buying Bitcoin ETFs, it's the start of it. It's just the start of it. Because if you see things how I do, these banks are going to be buying, they're not going to be buying the ETFs in 5 years from now, 10 years from now. They're going to be buying Bitcoin, and they're going to be holding Bitcoin, and they're going to be holding a key to clients' Bitcoin, and they're going to be issuing debt based on people's Bitcoin. That's the longer term vision, I think, for the banks. But it's still interesting to see that they're embracing it right now, just to have some exposure to it. And I think the risk management side of things, I think anybody who's ignoring Bitcoin right now is going to be in some trouble. If they're not already, they will be in trouble. If they continue to ignore Bitcoin and refuse to hold it within their funds and have their clients miss out on all the gains that we've been seeing through the last 15 years, I think they're going to be in some trouble. So we could just be at the stage right now where these fund managers and these banks are basically just buying some to avoid any sort of liability from their clients, because they do have a thing called a fiduciary duty to act on behalf of their shareholders and their board of directors. And if they're not investing their reserves in the best possible assets, then they are liable for failing to do so. So very interesting to say the least, I think there. AD says, hearing a lot of talk on Fedimints and eCash. I agree. That's one thing that I'm going to start paying a lot closer attention to, is the Fedimints and the eCash stuff. I have been for the most part. I just haven't had a real chance to dive into it yet. But to me, it sounds like there are issues with Lightning that are difficult for not only businesses to accept it, but different apps to implement it into their applications. But it seems like to me that the eCash, the Fedimints, even though there's a little bit less, you're relying on somebody else to hold your keys to the Bitcoin. You're trusting them that they have the Bitcoin there. But I think that the eCash and the Fedimints are going to be a lot more private, for one. but it also doesn't require the other end to have their Lightning node on, which is a big deal, I think. So I'm following the Fedimints and eCash very closely as well. Daddio says South State is my local bank. There you go. Its origins are in my small county. Wow, that's pretty cool. Very cool. And one thing to think about that is that the first thing I said there was that Bitcoin was designed to separate money from state. And I think that a lot of people kind of tie in their local bank with the central banks, right? The Federal Reserve. They associate their local bank with them. But for the most part, that's not the case at all. Your local bank is basically just providing a service to you to hold your money, to lend you money, but they don't have any sort of influence or control in terms of how much money is created or how much new debt is created. So I wanted to make a distinction there between the central banks and your local bank, right? So just keep that in mind moving forward. We don't hate all banks. We just hate the people who are at the top and who have the ability to control the money. That's who we hate. Your local bank is just providing a service, and they take their marching orders from the higher ups. Rick says, good morning all. Have you smashed the like button yet? Let's check it out. Have you? Have we? Yep. Most people have. Thank you. One thing you could do though, as well, if you've already liked, one thing you could do is hop over to zap.stream, get on there, and instead of likes, guess what? You can send Bitcoin. Okay. My Path to Fire says, good morning, Jor, sorry. What you make of the Ohio University booing reminds me of the sheep during COVID. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about right now. My Path to Fire also says all the investment funds will be searching for alpha. Where are they going to get it? Yeah, that's the thing that we got to keep in mind here too, is that regardless of how many of these fund managers and banks and large corporations are going to start buying Bitcoin, there's only so much Bitcoin. And we've never had an asset like that before, right? With gold, you want more gold, you go find more gold. With stocks, with the S&P, if a company's doing very well, they issue more stocks, diluting yours. Countries have the ability to print money. Every new dollar that's printed or every dollar that's added as new debt is a tax to you. It hurts, it devalues your cash. So with Bitcoin, regardless of how many people out there, how many countries, how many companies want Bitcoin, there's only so much of it. So that's what we're going to see, I think, this fall. Our pal says, living the future needs a Fedimint. I think we're working on it. Right now. From what I've seen anyways. So that'll be interesting. There's so many cool things happening over in Living the Future right now. And I'm going to actually jump over there after the show. And we're going to be talking about an idea I have for people. So I guess before we get there, just something to keep in mind here is if you are somebody who's into Bitcoin, if you are somebody who wants to be helping other people learn Bitcoin, consider joining today, because I'm going to be talking about an idea that I have in my mind of how we can use our community, our resources, and our knowledge and our networks, I guess, too, in different countries, in different states, different provinces, to help other people get into Bitcoin. And it's a very daunting task, I think, if you're somebody out there. If this is something you want to do, is help other people get into Bitcoin, store their Bitcoin, manage their Bitcoin. It's a daunting task, I think, to get into that yourself. But if you do have a network, if you have a community with resources, with knowledge, and different roles, I think you can move the needle a lot faster. And so that's what I'm going to propose today to the Living in the Future crew, and see what they think about it. Brennan says, I cannot imagine why college students wouldn't be open to something like Bitcoin, giving them a way out, unless they've gotten burned speculating. Yeah. So let's get to that. Daniel says, eCash and Fedimints lend themselves to strong communities of users. Yes. And as mentioned over here, from Mark, said, we need to have our own Fedimint. So let's do it. Let's do it. That's the cool thing about all this stuff, is that if we want to do something, we don't really have to ask anybody's permission to do it. So let's do it. Let's start a Fedimint. Bodhi says I'd zap, but I can't get my wallet figured out. That's okay. That's okay. And my path to fire zap 100 sats. Thank you. The goal today is because it's Tuesday. Tuesdays are tough. So all zaps matter. So let's talk about this. Ohio State, I was going to show the video, but I don't think people really need to see it. One thing I will say is, let's get through a couple things here. So what I'm going to share is, this is basically like a message to anybody out there, especially if you're at Ohio State University. So if you haven't seen it yet, there was a video, there was a professor, I think he was doing a speech at a graduation at Ohio State. And he was talking about inflation. He was talking about losing the purchasing power of your dollar, how it's impossible for students, anybody really, to get ahead right now in the fiat world. Made a lot of sense. But halfway through the speech, when he introduced Bitcoin, the crowd started going, they started, talking amongst themselves. Some people were booing once he mentioned Bitcoin, which was very surprising to me. But at the same time, not very surprising, because these kids they grew up in a system, their public school system. They went to school. They did everything that they're supposed to do. They probably amassed a huge amount of debt to go to school. And what nobody's really willing to say out loud, including their professors, including their teachers, their friends, what nobody's really willing to say out loud is that the majority of jobs that they're going to university for aren't going to exist in 10 years from now. And that's a pretty tough reality, I think, for a lot of kids. I think that kids in that age especially, they're going into a very dark place right now. And I mean, if you think about it, think back to when you were 22 years old. You get through college, you hear, the big American dream, you go through school, you want to get a good job, you want to get a house, you want to get a nice car. You go through that route. And along the way, you have a few beers, you probably get a boyfriend, a girlfriend. You're probably not spending a whole lot of time learning about Bitcoin, right? That wouldn't be the crowd that I would expect to be embracing Bitcoin, because they've gone through the full system of fiat. They've gone through the full system of everybody telling them how bad Bitcoin is. And it's the people, their high school mates, the people who didn't go to college or university and started doing their own thing, working a job, starting their own business. They've been the ones who have actually embraced Bitcoin, not the ones that just went to school, paid $100,000 for a diploma that they're not going to be able to use in 10 years. Those aren't the people who are embracing Bitcoin right now. But the one thing that I will say here, and this is kind of my message to anybody else out there who is going through school right now, or if you have somebody in your life who's going through school, I'll probably clip this, but consider sending them this video, because it is important. So I got a couple things here that I want to just share, and then I'm going to give some ideas for students. So the first one is that Bitcoin provides hope. And if you are that age right now, you've gone through a pretty tough stretch with, the last 4 years with COVID. You got through school somehow, through all that bullshit. And the world's probably a pretty dark place for you. You got a bunch of debt. You probably don't have a job. And it is pretty dark place. You'll probably never be able to afford a house. I'm going to tell you with a pretty straight face, if you continue down that road, if you continue working and living in the fiat world, you're never going to be able to afford a house. Maybe a small fraction of a percent of people will, but for the most part, they're not going to ever be able to afford a down payment of a house. With Bitcoin, though, it's different. And this isn't my opinion. If you look at the last 10 years of housing prices in fiat, it's been going up. In dollars, it's been going up and up and up, making your life harder, and interest rates are going up and becoming more unattainable to you. But if you look at Bitcoin, the prices of houses are actually going down in Bitcoin. So you're in a place now where you're young enough that you can actually put some aside and you can wait and you can work and you can, contribute and add value to the world while holding some Bitcoin. And hopefully in the next 4, 8, 12 years, while the housing prices continue to soar, the housing prices in dollars continue to soar, it's going the opposite in Bitcoin. So if you could do whatever you can to get as much Bitcoin as you can right now and hold on to that for the next decade, you will be able to afford a house. And as I've said on the show, not only will you be able to afford a house, you're going to have the best house in town. Because the people who are still living in the fiat world and who are going to continue to go down with this financial ship that's sinking, you're going to be buying their house with Bitcoin, with a fraction of whatever Bitcoin that you amass. If you have a long enough time horizon and you're willing to work for it, you're going to be in a very good place. So Bitcoin provides hope in a otherwise very hopeless and dark world. The second one here is that Bitcoin frees you, liberates you. We're also heading into a very scary world of like control. The governments, the big corporations, they want to know everything that you're doing, everything that you're even thinking right now. And in that system, you're not going to be able to have a voice in anything. If you say something wrong, if you tweet something wrong, whatever that is, you're going to be punished for it, not only by societal norms, but they're going to take away your account. They're going to shut off your bank and cut you off from whatever that you had till that point. And that's a very scary world. I think that the kids nowadays are kind of getting used to that, but it's not a place that we want to be in. And so with Bitcoin, with things like NOSTR, you do have a voice. And with Bitcoin, if you're holding Bitcoin as your main asset, they can't take that away from you. They can't freeze your Bitcoin account. And so if you do believe that we're in a bad place right now and you want to start speaking up and doing something about it, you're going to have something like Bitcoin. Because the only thing that they've had on us for the last 100 years is that if you speak out or if you do something that they don't like, they can just freeze your bank accounts. If you don't pay your taxes, they freeze your bank accounts. With Bitcoin, they cannot freeze your wallet. They can't do it. If you do it properly, if you take the time to educate yourself and learn how to take self-custody of your Bitcoin, there's nothing that they can do to take that Bitcoin from you. That threat is gone. The muzzle is off your face with Bitcoin, which is very important. The next one here is that Bitcoin is totally voluntary. So when you're 20 years old, when you're 25 years old, the last thing you want to be doing is taking it, listening to other people. You think that you know it all at that point. You don't want to take any advice. You just do the exact opposite mostly of what the people you should be listening to tell you to do. So with Bitcoin, it's completely voluntary. You were born into a system of fiat where essentially the day that you were born, the American government or whatever country you're in has amassed so much debt that's on the back of you. I think it's like $250,000 now, that when you are born, you have that debt because of the government. Nothing that you've done in your life, but because the people that came before you were living in this fiat world and abusing the fiat world, they've amassed so much debt that that's on your shoulders now. And it's not something that you're ever going to pay off. So you're forced into that system. You have no choice. But with Bitcoin, there's nobody that's going to force you to do anything. Nobody's going to force you to buy Bitcoin. Nobody's going to force you to get a Bitcoin wallet. Nobody's going to force you to learn Bitcoin. It's totally voluntary. And so I think that most 20-year-olds or 25-year-olds would appreciate the fact that they get to decide what currency they use. We have the ability now. When I went through college, I did not have that ability, but we do now. So Bitcoin is totally voluntary. Bitcoin is security. So I saw a tweet today that said that the US plans now, 1 year shorter than originally expected, but the US plans on running out of their social security budget by 2035. And I know that this is a bit of a stretch in terms of will this actually happen or not? Who knows? But the path that we're going down with this debt that we've amassed, that people before you have amassed. You're paying for that now. And every time you go to work, every day you go to work, half of your day pretty much goes to paying off that debt. It's insane. And so not only are they paying down the debt, but there's older people who are starting to retire, and these countries have obligations to pay these pensions and these social securities. And so Bitcoin is security. You don't have to worry about whether your government's going to pay off their debt or have enough for you down the road. Just get rid of that idea. Get rid of the idea that the government's going to look out for you, because they're not. Ever. In any circumstance will the government look after you. And especially that's in 10 years from now, they're expecting to run out of social security. It could happen sooner, it could happen a little bit later, but at the end of the day, you don't want to be putting your life's energy into a pension or social security that the government's holding for you. So Bitcoin, instead of sending, to your pension, instead of paying into that, set up a Bitcoin wallet. Keep that wallet for the rest of your life. And I guarantee you, this is not any sort of advice or financial advice. I rarely say that on the show, but this is a guarantee. If you held Bitcoin in a wallet today, or if you had money in a pension today, I guarantee you that they both might be there in 20 years or 30 years or whenever the hell you're going to retire. But the Bitcoin wallet is going to have so much more purchasing power than your pension wallet, if you even get access to your pension or your social security. So Bitcoin is security there. In a very uncertain world, Bitcoin is security there. And so the next one here is that Bitcoin is just better. It's better in every aspect of the financial system, of the internet, of everything. Bitcoin is just better. And so I want to show you a video here. I think that most people, especially if you're 20, 25 years old, you spend a lot of time on your phone, on social networks and stuff like that. And you're posting pictures on Instagram, you're sharing stories on Snapchat, maybe some TikToks. And that world there is designed to take your data, take your information, sell it to other companies, give you nothing for it, and they just want you to continue feeding it. And what do you get for it? What do you get for a nice picture that you post, or a nice, a well thought out tweet that you had, if you actually want to be adding value? What do you get for that? What's a like worth to you? Just your ego, quick hit of dopamine for you? Whereas the new world here that we're moving into with Bitcoin, it's different. If you add value, if you post a good picture that people like, make them laugh, a meme people enjoy, or some information or an instructional video on something, with this new internet, with Bitcoin, with micropayments, you have the ability to actually earn value from that, not just a like. And I think that as more and more people, especially that age, figure this out, everything's going to change, and it's going to change fast. And so I'm going to take a very short break here, and I'm going to show you guys this video, you guys and girls, this video. Stop sharing. There we go. Of what I'm talking about here. So like I said, you post a nice picture, you post a good reel. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example here quickly of my own life. So last night I posted this reel on Instagram, and it was about the golf we played on the weekend in Minot. And it already has 27,000 or 2,700 views, 40 shares, and 7 saves. That's on Instagram. And yes, I mean, it's building our brand, obviously, but what did I get for that? Fuck all. 90 likes. What is a like worth? It didn't show up in my bank account. It didn't show up in my Bitcoin wallet. What's a like worth? I just feel like our whole youth has been so ingrained to value likes, when really they're worth absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. So this is what I'm going to share here. This is an example of that. Instead of using an app like Instagram, why not use an app like Primal on a protocol like NOSTR? So let's check this out here. This is a 1-minute video here. about this guy here in Costa Rica. He made a post on NOSTR. He earned sats from it instead of likes, and he actually bought tacos with it. So let's check this out. Hopefully things work.
He's super excited about this new social media network. Let me show you why.
We truly have micropayments on the internet for content. Finally, like it exists, it works. People are receiving zaps and buying food with it.
So the guy who made Twitter, Jack Dorsey, is super excited about this new social media network. Let me show you why.
We truly have micropayments on the internet for content. Finally, like it exists, it works. People are receiving zaps and buying food with it in places like Costa Rica where you have circular economies. It's working today. So I can literally have a great post, I can get some zaps, and I can get a taco down the street. I mean, it's here.
It's here. John, you want to get a taco?
Yes, sir.
Vamos. While John and I are on our way to get a taco, let me explain to you what the heck Jack is talking about. So zaps are micro payments of Bitcoin. Instead of just sending likes, you can send zaps to your favorite creators. Now, this is made possible because of an open protocol called NOSTR. NOSTR is a fundamentally new way to do social media because it removes the single corporation in between you and your followers. As you can see here, this post got about 17,000 sats worth of Bitcoin, which is around 10 bucks. Let's go see if this can buy me a taco. 3 tacos de birria, por favor.
3 tacos de birria.
Sí.
Something to drink?
Nada.
Nada? Perfecto.
Gracias.
Permiso.
No. ¿Te puedo pagar en Bitcoin?
Of course.
So 17,432. I think that's close to the amount of zaps I got.
Yes, perfect.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Pura vida. Voila. Tacos bought with zaps.
Pretty cool, right? And I mean, it's fun to see that. It's fun to see the zaps, all these different things. But if you really think about what actually happened there, this guy made a post just like you do on Instagram, just like you do on TikTok, whatever it is. But instead of just getting likes and some shares for it and maybe some people enjoying it, he actually got real life value, and he went and bought tacos with that value from it. How many people have ever bought a taco with likes on Instagram before? I would wait. I think I'd be waiting quite a while for that. So the point there is that your stuff does have value, and right now everything's just being drained from you. In this system of Bitcoin, micropayments of Lightning, all this integrates to make a much better experience for you with everything. Your data is valuable. Your attention is valuable. Your content is valuable. Whatever it is, if somebody else gets value from that, they should be able to send it back. And in the old system, in the legacy fiat system, we didn't have the opportunity to do this because you couldn't send 2 cents. It was impossible. The banks wouldn't facilitate it. Visa wouldn't facilitate it. It was impossible to send 2 cents worth of value. But with Bitcoin, with Lightning, you can. And this fella, he bought tacos with the Bitcoin-like version from a post. And so I just feel like there's so many people who have no idea that that exists. So essentially what he did there was with Primal, you can post, you can receive Bitcoin, and within that Primal app, you can actually pay for things. It has a Lightning wallet attached to it. So you can make a post, you can earn sats, and you can go out directly and spend it. And this will just continue to grow. The businesses that accept Bitcoin and Lightning will continue to grow. And so the best place that you can be right now is setting up for that right now. So there you go. Bitcoin is just better in every aspect. That's one, right? And I feel like 20-year-olds, they relate to that. I'm sure they have Instagram posts, Instagram videos that receive thousands of likes, just that generation. And why not actually get something for it instead? Instead of just feeding the beast, why not actually get something for you instead of that? So there you go. And I feel like, that's just one random guy on Primal. But imagine artists, like when the artists figure out that they can earn Bitcoin for posting songs and videos and content, it's not going to take very long for this thing to catch on. Just needs a spark. And we're working on it. So there you go. That's what I got for you in terms of the Bitcoin is better. I was going to go into a few different other things with that, but I think that's the main one I wanted to get across. And so the last thing here is that it started with Bitcoin provides hope. And I want to end it with Bitcoin is your only hope. Because the fiat system is dead. There's no person, there's no entity, there's nothing that can ever turn that around at this point. $35 trillion worth of debt, never coming back from that. So then you look at what are the options there. Okay, are they going to reset the currency, go to CBDCs, have control of your entire life? Are you going to hide cash under your mattress? Or are you going to start buying gold? Your only hope right now is Bitcoin. There's nothing else. There's nothing else. And it's shitty to say that, but at the same time, thank God for Bitcoin. Thank God we do have something like that. Because imagine a world where we didn't have that. What would you do? What would I do? My world was very dark before I discovered, what's going on with Bitcoin here. So Bitcoin is your only hope. And with that, like I like to do with every show here, I also have some actionable stuff instead of just hearing me talk. But let's catch up on things because I went on a bit of a tangent there and missed a whole bunch of stuff. So what's going on in Zap.stream here? Okay, let me refresh so I can see some names. Looks like this is the most active in a while. Great to see. Not your pal Zap 420 sats. Thank you. Matt zapped 21 sats. The grinder zapped 1,000 sats. Good morning. Thank you very, very much. The grinder and Kieran are fucking killing it over on Zap.stream. If you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you check out Odell did a show last week with the creator of Zap.stream, Kieran. Very interesting. So he's building Zap.stream, the grinders with him as well there. And also snort.social they're working on. So very cool stuff. I highly suggest you check that one out. I think it was last Tuesday or Wednesday. But Odell did a Citadel dispatch with Kieran, one of the creators or the creator of Zap.stream. The grinder says, can you drop the link to that tweet, please? Yeah, I think for the Bitcoin tacos there, I think that's what he's talking about. Let's see this. Let's see Zap.stream in action here. There you go. Okay, sorry, I got a bit of dead air here. I'm just reading things. But the grinder said Snort, Amethyst, Damus, no Strudel. Those are NOSTR apps. Primal is literally NOSTR's Coinbase. I heard him say that on Odell's show the other day too. Probably true. Probably true. But I don't use Primal myself. I use Damus. But Primal is, I think it's the easiest for most people, the average person, to just get into. Some of these other things like Damus, there's a little bit more setup required, a little bit more knowledge about Bitcoin required, hooking up your Lightning URL to it. There's just different things. Well, I would suggest using like Damus or Snort, but Primal, I think for the most part, from everybody I've talked to, Primal's very user friendly, and I think that's going to be something that brings the masses over to NOSTR. So that's what I would say on that. I do want to try some of these out though. Like I haven't tried Amethyst, and I keep hearing so many good things about it. I like Snort. I use Primal on desktop sometimes, but Damus mostly on my phone. And I really want to try Amethyst. It's just the Bitcoin world's kind of overwhelming at times. It's hard to do everything at once. So you kind of just have to take things slow and steady, I think. Okay. So Bryn says, most kids think that high salary is the answer to becoming wealthy, but I know more families pulling in 200K and are broke. It's a societal sickness. That's a very good comment. That's a very good comment. Very accurate. That's kind of the world that we grew up in, is that, you know, if you want to become rich, if you want to become wealthy, if you want to have a nice house, you got to get a good job. You got to be a doctor, you got to be a dentist, an accountant, a lawyer. All bullshit. You're never going to get wealthy working a job, ever. And I mean, even the high earners, as he said there, they're the ones who spend the most money. You seen a doctor? I mean, they're making 10 times more than the average person. They got, 20 times more debt. That they get this lifestyle. They go through all this work, go through all this years of school. They work their ass off, and they just spend everything that they have there. And so, I mean, it's different if you have your own practice. If you're a doctor or a dentist, obviously you're building your equity within your business there, but you're never going to get rich working a salary job, ever. And especially with the world that we're moving into here, moving out of the fiat world and into the Bitcoin world. Abe, we'll call him Abe. I'm unable to get my private keys in the last version of Bitcoin Core. Can you explain it in a video? There's probably somebody within the community actually who could help you with that. Not my forte. Okay, so let's okay, so the grinder says, as a content creator, I recommend for you to check out NOSTR. It gives you access to the other stuff all via one interface. Interesting. Okay, well, I'll write that down. I want to check out Amethyst and NOSTR. This is probably a dumb, oh fuck, what did I do here? It's probably a dumb question, but can you just get like NOSTR in the App Store? Like I'm very non-technical, and Amethyst. Sorry, we're just kind of live troubleshooting here in mid-show, but that's okay. Here's a link, nostrudel. Okay, let's check this out. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that live. Okay, so here's what I want to end the show with, because I went through all the reasons why Bitcoin is a much better alternative for anybody, really, but especially people who are 20, 25 years old. The one thing I would say to that is that they have so much, they're going to have such an advantage into the future. In these next 10 years, if they take the right path, they're going to have such a crazy advantage over us and everybody else. If you have time, that's the key here. You got to put in some time to learn Bitcoin, but then all you need is some time, because Bitcoin just kind of does its thing. It's a scarce asset with a fixed supply, and the only way things work naturally is that they'll continue to go up in purchasing power over time. So kids nowadays have such an advantage because they have time. And so here's a few things that I would be doing if I left high school instead of going the traditional route to university. And speaking from experience here, because I went through that whole system. So this is what I would be doing. If I was straight out of school today, I would probably learn a trade. I would get a job. I would work that, earn as much fiat, as possible, put the majority of it into Bitcoin, savings and free cash flow. Spend as much time in Bitcoin as you can. But here's some ideas for businesses that I would start. Because like I said, with the students there, nobody's willing to tell them this. But in 10 years from now, the majority of jobs that they're going to be applying for next month aren't going to be around. They're going to be replaced by technology, by AI. And people like us, people who are in Bitcoin right now, we're going to have such an advantage because we're going to be able to pay those AI bots, pay these AI assistants to help us, to make our lives easier and to push our businesses forward. So considering that, you have to think a little bit differently here. So this is what I would be doing if I was somebody who's just out of high school today. I would start a lawn care business. I'd start a DJ company. I would start a high-end limo service. I would start a dog walking company. I would maybe start like a guided tour, whether that's a fishing, hiking, travel company, some sort of guided tour. I would also spend a lot of time learning AI right now. And there's two parts to that. I would be focused on how it can help me in the future in terms of what I want to do. But you can also, if you're into AI right now, let's say that you become really good at prompts with AIs. You can generate images, you can generate videos very quickly using AI and Bitcoin. And so let's say that you pay an AI 1,000 sats or 2,000 sats, and you get an image or some sort of thing that a client's looking for. And then you turn around and sell that to the client for half an hour of your time or an hour of your time, $50, $100. So you're essentially there. That's the arbitrage, right? That's the arbitrage. You can spend 1,000 sats or 2,000 sats. If you know what you're doing, you can generate something for a client who doesn't know what they're doing, and you can take advantage of the spread there. And I think that's going to be a very big opportunity for kids who are very tech knowledgeable, unlike people, like me. But that's one thing you can do is learn how to do AI very well, pay it in Bitcoin, and then charge a spread for the actual people who don't know about that yet, who don't know how to do that, don't have the time to learn how to do it yet. And then the last one here, and I talked about this in our Living in the Future community, and I don't know if anybody's actually going to take me up on it or not, but I really want somebody out there to start going to garage sales every Saturday this summer, buying local and selling global. So go to a garage sale, find specific items you want, things that are very easy to ship, buy them at a garage sale locally and sell them globally. I think there's also a huge arbitrage there in terms of buying locally and selling globally. Because if you think about it, if you find an item there and you're trying to sell it locally, that's a very small market. And that's all we had in the past. We had no ability to send, something across the world and get paid for it. But with Bitcoin, you do. So you buy something locally and you expand globally, sell it globally. It's a global marketplace. That's why Bitcoin has so much value, is because if you compare like a plot of land here in the prairies, even though it has value, it has a very small local demand for it. Whereas if you take Bitcoin, also a good investment, also has value, you're not worried. You don't have to sell it to your neighbor. You don't have to sell it to somebody down the road. You can sell it to the entire world. And so when you have global demand for something, obviously it's much more valuable. So that's the arbitrage there, is you buy something locally and you sell globally. And my idea was that if you actually, wanted to do this summer, if this is something you set out to do, you go to garage sales, you document it, you start doing different shows on it, put it on YouTube, talking about how you're buying locally, selling globally, using Bitcoin. And you can use NOSTR, you can use satscrap.com, you can use plebeian market, I think it's called. But there's the arbitrage. You buy local and you sell global. And as Daddio says here, and this is probably the key to all that, multiple streams of income matter. Don't rely on one single source. Don't rely on one person. Always want to eliminate your single point of failure in Bitcoin, in life. So yes, you could maybe have part-time work or full-time work as your salary, but you also need to have other things coming in just in case. Not only just in case you get replaced by AI, but you're also just building and building and building. So multiple streams. Start a lawn care and a dog walking company and master AI. Like, don't do one of these things, but just start earning as much as you can. Not with a salary. So there you go. There's lots going on over on Zap.stream. I'm sorry I can't keep up to it all. I went on a couple rants today. Yeah, I mean, my path to fire says AI or outsourced to places where they allow slave labor. Like the jobs and the career paths that we knew 10, 20, 30 years ago are much different today, much different because of technology. And as technology continues to, get better and better, it's just going to make more and more obsolete. So I really think that a lot of people are sleeping on that, and they think that things are going to be the same forever. They're going to school, they're applying for jobs, they're thinking that they're going to earn $100,000 and that's going to get them a nice house, a nice car, be able to start a family. It's not. It's not. Because the way that our governments are going right now, half that's going to go to taxes. 25% is going to go to other taxes like property taxes, general taxes. We have GST, PST, we have carbon taxes here. The majority of that gets swallowed up before it even hits your bank account. That's not a world that you want to live in. It's not sustainable, and it's not going to be around forever. So the best thing that you can do is actually acknowledge that, realize it, and start making steps, taking steps, whether you're a student or whether you're somebody who's working a job right now with a salary. You have to be anticipating here what's coming. And if you're not, you're going to be in a ton of trouble. So there you go. That's the show for today. One thing we're going to do here is we're going to jump over to living in the future. And I'm going to be talking about, I mean, if all this was interesting to you, if you are somebody who wants to start earning different streams of income, whether that's fiat or Bitcoin, I really want you to consider joining today. So in the description, I believe it says living in the future. There's a link there. You can click, you can join for 7 days. Check out today's video. If you're not interested in it, just cancel it. But the thing we're going to be talking about today is actually working together as a community, as a network, and starting to help other people learn Bitcoin. Because we know it's coming here. As soon as Bitcoin, gets to another all-time high, gets to $100,000, everybody is going to be wanting to get some Bitcoin. And there's not a whole lot of people out there who are actually catering to that and preparing for that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use our knowledge, our network, and our resources to share with each other, to, share ideas, share roles in a sense, where one person's doing this, one person is really focused on, let's say, UTXO management. Somebody's very focused on setting up cold cards. Somebody's very focused on, restoring Bitcoin for people, whatever that is. But I just think that there's a lot of power in networks and community. So if you want to start earning Bitcoin, because that's how this is going to work, we're going to start, what can I say here? We're going to start planning, preparing it. It'll probably take a couple months, but I want to get to a point where we can start bringing people in to help them with Bitcoin. Like, instead of charging $500 for an hour, just do like a 5-10 minute call for Bitcoin. And that's kind of the route that I see this is going to take. So if you are interested, I don't really want to share too much because I want to save it for that chat. But if you are somebody who wants to maybe be earning Bitcoin for helping other people get into Bitcoin and learn Bitcoin and kind of show them the ropes and hold their hand, then check out Living in the Future. We're going to hop over there right now. So big shout out to everybody on Zap.stream. It was a heck of a day over there today. We got some zaps. The chat was buzzing, and we got some great advice from some people today. So much appreciated over there on Zap.stream. And to everybody else on the YouTubes, it's been a slice. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show and the channel. And consider joining. We're going to hop over there right now. If you are somebody who's in Living in the Future, just go to the Patreon. I shared the link this morning. You should just be able to click that video there and continue watching from that. So there you go. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate you very much. And we'll see you right back here first thing tomorrow morning, or we'll see you on Living in the Future, where we're going to figure out how to earn some more Bitcoin. Bye-bye.